You see the headlines. FBI admits it failed to investigate a tip from person close to Florida shooter warning of his desire to conduct a school shooting. Now, the FBI did not fail to investigate. I believe they did investigate. The FBI did not ignore the warnings. Again, I'm going to repeat. They did not ignore the warnings. But they used the warnings to their own advantage. They used the warnings to promote their own agenda. They saw an opportunity and they took it. Now, I'm going to put this article on the bottom. You guys can read it in its entirety for yourself. I'm just going to read a portion of it. But this is all by design. Now, before I end this video, I'm going to show you something in this article that many of you have not seen, that many of you have not noticed or paid any attention to. And you didn't notice it, you didn't pay attention to it because you know nothing about firearms, and that's why it's so easy for the media and the Democrats to scare you and to manipulate your mind into pushing for gun control. Now I'm going to read a portion of this. A person close to Nikolas Cruz tipped off the FBI about his potential to carry out a school shooting in January, but they did nothing. The Federal Bureau of Investigation received the information on January 5th, but they failed to investigate Cruz, who killed 17 when he opened fire at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School on Wednesday. On January 5th, 2018, a person close to Nikolas Cruz contacted the FBI's public access line. Now, what's the purpose of this public access line if nothing is going to be done? Tip line to report concerns about him. The FBI statement read, the caller provided information about Cruz's gun ownership, desire to kill people, erratic behavior, and disturbing social media posts, as well as the potential of him conducting a school shooting. Yes, they knew about it. And they purposely did nothing about it according to your own understanding, but they did something about it to push their own agenda and to use it to their own advantage. They used his mental issues, or what's the term I want to use? They used his mental problems as a tool to promote their own agenda. Now I'm not gonna wear or drag this video out. I'm gonna forward it down to the bottom, and I'm gonna show you guys something, okay, that you guys more than likely didn't know anything about. Now, when you see this picture of him holding up what appears to be a firearm, for those of you who know about firearms, what do you see in this photo? I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it. I'm going to give you a few seconds. What do you see in this photo? Well, it looks scary. It looks like he's plotting to do some harm with a firearm or a handgun. Okay, and that's why people are so like scary and like, oh, we got to do something about these guns. But what have you noticed about this photo? Well, if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. Look at the tip. Oh, I hate this. Look at the tip of this firearm. Do you notice it's orange? Do you know what orange symbolizes when you see an orange tip on a gun? That means that it's fake. It's not real. This is not a real gun. Looks like maybe a BB gun. Or maybe even a pellet gun. But this is not a real firearm. So to the people who know nothing about firearms, they're going to look at this picture like, oh, he was able to get a handgun and he's posing with this scary handgun. But it's not real. See that orange tip? That means that it's not real. It's fake. Right? But a lot of you didn't notice that because you don't know much about guns. Right? So I'm going to put this article on the bottom. But the FBI did not fail to investigate. They did investigate. The FBI did not ignore the warnings. They did not ignore the warnings. But they used it to their own advantage. They needed a fall guy, and this is the fall guy. And if you guys notice that all of these so-called shooters, they always end up finding masks. And they always end up having an AK. Right? That's no other firearm, no shotguns, AK. These dangerous weapons that we got to get rid of. Gun control. Right? So they all have something in common, and always the thought always come to my mind is like, where are these young people, these school age kids, getting the money from to buy these firearms? Where are they getting it from? Are the parents giving them the money, or are these firearms that are planted? Because see, we know in the black community that law enforcement, they're masters of planting evidence on innocent people. We know this. They are masters at planting evidence on innocent people. Now, I'm not going to say this young man is innocent. I'm not saying that. Maybe to a degree. Because if he's got a mental issue and you have students that called to report this, and they decided, the FBI, the Alphabet Boys decided to use this to their own advantage, well, maybe in some way, at some level, he is somewhat innocent. But they used his weakness, his alleged mental illness, to their own advantage. He now become their fall guy. He now become their weapon. So they admit it failed to investigate. But I don't think they failed. I think they did investigate, and I think they didn't ignore it. They just used it to their own advantage, and he's the fall guy. But again, I'm going to put the article on the bottom, you guys, to check it out for yourself. Feedback, tell me what you think. But this is not a real gun. This is not real. It's got an orange tip on it. But it looks scary to people that don't know much about firearms. See, this is what the Democrats are doing to you. See, they're deceiving you. They're manipulating your mind because you're listening to everything they tell you. I remember when I first came out of the military, and I was involved in this riot in Florida along Beat 10. You know, this protest that was going on, and I was a part of the riot, control. And so when I came back to the States, fast forward, when I came back to the States, I was watching the event on the news. And I sat there and I watched it and I listened to what the media had to say about it. And I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. right? So when I got back to the States, everything that the media had to say about that protest was completely false. I knew it was false because I was there, alive, in person, on the right control line. I was there. But when I got back and listened to the media here in the United States, it was false. Completely different event that took place. And when I looked at that, I said, that's not true. That didn't happen. Right? So I'm going to put the article on the bottom. You guys feedback. Tell me what you think. But this is all by design. This is all by design. And all of these so-called active shooters all have something in common. They all have the same equipment, the same firearms. They always end up finding stuff. You know, they end up finding stuff. See, so no, but the FBI did not fail to investigate. They did not ignore it. They just used it to their advantage. So feedback, tell me what you think. Till next time. I'm fearless.